Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator Blackburn, thank you, ma'am, for your time. I just want to spend a moment on this fundraiser. They raise big bucks, but it's like the GOP is coming together. And I think the reach out here, successful policies to restore the middle class, I think the whole country is going to unify around this.
I agree with you, Larry, and everywhere I go, all across Tennessee and into other states, people talk about inflation. When you look at the fact that food costs are up 36.8% over where they were in 2020, people feel that pinch at the grocery cart, also at the gas pump. They know that under President Donald Trump, they had a little money left over at the end of the month. And under Joe Biden, they have too much month left over at the end of their money. And they want to go back to Trump policies, and I agree with them wholeheartedly.
Senator Blackburn, that's a great line about the money at the end of the month and the month at the end of the money. I love that. I'm going to have to put that to work. Will you unlock that? That's a terrific line, honestly.
You have at it, Larry.
Thank you ever so much. All right, let's just move on now. Here we go again. President Biden, he's expanding the loan cancellation now up to maybe 30 million borrowers or more, no interest payments, no principal payments. And it just so happens the registration will come sometime in late summer or early fall, just before the election. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Supreme Court said no. What about the Supreme Court doesn't Mr. Biden understand, Senator Blackburn? I still don't get it.
It is so offensive to Tennesseans and I think to all Americans when Joe Biden will stand up and start railing against the Supreme Court and say, it doesn't matter what they say. I'm going to do what I want to do. And, Larry, people look at this and say, we're tired of two tiers of justice, two tiers of access, two tiers of treatment. And they know that Joe Biden, this president, is openly defying the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court has spoken and has said, Mr. President, you cannot do this. And for him to say, I'll do it anyway, is so wrong. It's one of the reasons people are tired of Joe Biden and his antics.
I thought he was the president in defense of democracy and defense of the Constitution. I mean, to me, that's an opening, as wide as a truck. He should be criticized and held accountable. Because decide this, the Supreme Court decision, by the way, he's probably violating, as you've said many times, he's violating the Constitution on the border. He's violating the Constitution with his regulatory state. Now he's got these student loans. He's violating the Constitution with his war, his lawfare war on Trump. I mean, he's violating the Constitution. He wouldn't even allow, remember, Democratic primaries in North Carolina and in Florida. And they did everything they could to keep Robert Kennedy Jr. off the ballot. I mean, it's fascinating to me. This is democracy. He's the anti-democracy.
And what he continues to say is to trot out that line and talk about how he's trying to defend democracy. But isn't that what the Democrats often do? They'll say one thing and do the exact opposite. And what Joe Biden is trying to do, what his administration is trying to do, is to be a government of, by, and for the powerful, the elite, the well-connected, and not a government of, by, and for the people. The court has told him no on student loans. He has also been defied when it comes to the border. And we will begin this impeachment on Wednesday with Mayorkas. He should be impeached. And if Chuck Schumer tries to toss out these articles and not have a trial, every American should be incensed. This would never have happened in a Trump administration. It would never have happened if Republicans were in charge of the Senate. And for Chuck Schumer to say we're not going to have a trial, that has never happened in the history of the United States.
Can you just walk us through that? That's a key point, Senator. The House passed the impeachment, and they walk it over. They walk it over this week to the Senate, and the Senate is supposed to just accept it. It's as I understand it, it's a pro forma development under the Constitution. You're saying that will be rejected for the first time?
Well, we will convene at 5 on Wednesday, and we will receive the documents from the House, the impeachment articles, and then we will be sworn in as a court of impeachment. Every senator is sworn in. The process then would be for the evidence to be presented, for the trial to take place. What Chuck Schumer is saying he's going to do is move to table the impeachment articles and not move forward on a trial. That has never happened. It has never happened. And what we need to do is move forward with that trial. I think Mayorkas should be removed from office. He has been doing Joe Biden's bidding on the border. That border policy is wide open. It is an intentional move by the Democrats. There are thousands of Americans that have died of fentanyl poisoning. There are thousands of Americans who have been killed in traffic accidents or shootings, things that have been carried out by those illegally in this country. There are thousands of women and girls who have been sex trafficked by the cartels. There are 85,000 children that HHS and the Office of Refugee Resettlement took into custody, and we do not know where they are, and Mayorkas cannot tell you where they are or who has them. They have lost 85,000 children. Some of these children were being trafficked, and now they've gone to sponsors that were not vetted. Yes, Mayorkas should be tried, and he should be removed from office.
Yes, ma'am. Not to speak of a bunch of New York cops being attacked in the subway by Venezuelan gang members, and also tragic.
The list goes on and on.
Right. Tragic, this cop in the Queens who was taken out by another Venezuelan
devastating
criminal. Anyway, Senator Marsha Blackburn, thank you, ma'am. I want to get this right. Money left over at the end of the month versus the month left over, no money. Is that right? Is that about right?
Well, there's too much month left over at the end of the money, and under Trump, they had money left over at the end of the month.
All right, I'm taking that down verbatim. We will give you credit, ma'am, as always. Senator
You got it.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, thank you ever so much.